to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ebro, Laura, and Rosenberg. Today's guest, Senator of New Jersey, Cory Booker. How you doing, sir?
Hey.
I'm doing well. It's always good to be with you guys, and I appreciate you having me on.
Well, a couple things we got to get to. We're going to talk about vaccinations. That's big, important.
Yeah.
But first,
we got to talk about.
We're going to talk
marijuana.
about New Jersey and marijuana. We just had Governor Phil Murphy on, and what was the young lady's name? I think it was Diane Waynu.
Yes.
She is the chair of the Cannabis Regulatory Commission in New Jersey. She just got appointed, so we had her on too. But nonetheless, Cory, you are now seen as a suburban mom sex symbol. I mean, I know you saw the tweets, man.
Is that true?
Yo, you guys didn't see it?
No.
When the former regime tried to make it look like, Cory Booker's coming to the suburbs to ruin your neighborhoods, and moms came out on Twitter was like, Cory Booker could come to my house.
It was really of my, I've been on Twitter since 2009. It was the highlight of my Twitter experiences.
I bet.
Yes, and it got me great points with my significant other. I let her know how thirsty some
was hot in these streets. You told Rosario, listen, Ma, I'm hot in these streets right now.
Hey, listen, Cory, let me be clear. You're never going to catch up with the thirst for your significant other, okay?
I know I'm way behind from men and women, so I understand that. But a brother can try, though.
That's right. Now, Cory, let's talk vaccines.
Yeah.
What is going on at the federal level? Because every day there's we don't have enough. New York State has tons of these giant mass vaccination sites. Jersey also. Everybody's ready to go. Where are the vaccines?
Well, first of all, let's just be clear. When we took over from the Trump administration, when Biden took office, they were failing. They were stumbling.
It was a disaster. There was no plan. There was nothing. They had nothing.
And so if you chart this, and I wish I could hold it up right now, you'd see like a hockey stick, sort of down and then up with all of the vaccines that are getting out there. We had a little blip during the horrible winter storm that we just came through, but the vaccines are going to continue to grow. New vaccine providers like Johnson & Johnson are coming online. So a lot of the struggles we're seeing in Jersey and New York are going to be a thing of the past very soon, as you're going to see. I'm not exaggerating the numbers. Millions more are being vaccinated every week. So I'm confident. And in this COVID package, as senator, we're trying to do our job by putting even more resources, not just for the federal government, but for state and local communities and community-based organizations to get more resources to get out there and vaccinate people.
It's well documented the lack of trust that black folks have for healthcare and the federal government. When a vaccine comes out, I don't believe that black people are afraid of a vaccine. I believe black people are afraid of the people putting the vaccines out.
Yeah.
And there's history to support that. And so, there's...
Let's just nod that history for a second. It's wretched history.
Right.
Medical experiments on black people, forced castrations of black people, injecting black people with diseases just to see how they would respond to things like syphilis and the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. This is an awful history, and it's understandable that communities would be suspicious. That said, we need to overcome that as a community because black folks are dying, Latino folks are dying at much higher rates than white folks. This is a pandemic that has been disproportionate in its impact on racial minorities. And so there's an urgency here. And the way you overcome that, number one, I've been vaccinated. I tell folks, you know, I live in Newark. I tell folks that I got the vaccine. I'm all right. In fact, I'm better than all right because now I have a barrier. But it's more than that. You are taking a vaccine not just for your own safety, but for that of your family, your neighborhood, your community. And the last thing I want to say is what I've been pushing is money to local grassroots organizations that are already trusted by the community to be the ones that are doing this. And that's really important as well.
Well, and some of it is just time, right? I believe as, you know, when things are new, you know, people go, okay, let me just see how this plays out for a second. All right. And so I think some of this is just people becoming accustomed to it in time, just like the flu shot. You know, if I recall correctly, when the years and years ago, when the advertisements were like flu shot, everybody get a flu shot. People were like, Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Right. I
Hang
also
on a
think it's
second.
important, though, to have education about the specific vaccine, because there's so much, like fake news floating around on social media, and people just don't understand.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's why, in Newark we got church groups, we have a local clinics. These are folks that people go to all the time, and have people that can actually say to folks and explain to folks, not just the science behind it, but the urgency of it is what's really important. So I agree with you. The more you know, the more you're going to get that vaccine.
Cory, could we just talk January 6th for a minute? We haven't spoken to you. I know Ebro tried to reach out, but like a lot of others,
Changed his number on me.
You blocked his number.
Yo, I hit you on January 6th. Like, yo, my G, you all right? Yo, listen.
Yeah.
Duff one of them out. I might have said punch him in the face in the text.
Well, so Cory, can you take us through what January 6th was like for you? Just take us through the day and then how your feelings evolved after the day.
So I was on the Senate floor when the panic ensued, and you saw the vice president hustled out to a hold room, and you saw the crisis ensue. We were evacuated off the floor, and I watched the humiliation of the most powerful country on the planet, the seat of its power, the humiliation of us having to flee. And then we got into a hold room that I didn't feel comfortable. So I convinced the guard to let me go to my office.
Didn't feel comfortable because you didn't feel safe from the attackers, or because of COVID fears?
COVID fears, more COVID fears.
It led to a small COVID outbreak
amongst lawmakers. Yes.
On Capitol Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, but let me just tell you, when I got back to my office and I turned on the TV, and I saw the Confederate flag, that broke something in me, and then I started seeing the protesters with the overt racism, anti-Semitism. It really broke something in me, and I will tell you right now, we are a country that has yet to confront, as we need to, the scourge of white supremacy. And we don't even talk about the fact that since 9/11, we've had more terrorist attacks done by right-wing extremists, majority of them white supremacists, than anybody else. And to see them capture the Capitol, when the British was the last time it happened, when the Confederates themselves tried, they made a run to take the Capitol, got repelled by Union forces. But to see them have that moment of triumph, it really broke something in me. And so I'll tell you this, all of us should take away from that. Number one, it was a failure, but we have to understand that you can face defeats but not be defeated. And we can't. We have to be more determined as a country, not just to have the periodic signs of white supremacy and that kind of violence, but to get to the root of it, so that we never see this kind of violence again.
But lawmakers at your level, at the federal level, too many, are not ready to hold people accountable.
No,
they weren't. They weren't ready to prosecute Donald Trump. Matter of fact, Donald Trump's going to be popping out at some conservative convention. There's reports that 50% of his voters will go with him to another party. You have people who were allowed different vacations and house arrest. They weren't held. If those were black people or any indigenous or Latin Americans, they would be in jail, thousands. And even worse, shooting would have took place. This was an inside job done by people who not only work at the Capitol Police, but also are House representatives. We're seeing that information. And it feels like people that work at your building there in the Capitol are not ready to deal with it. And if it's not dealt with, it's going to happen again.
Right.
And be worse.
Right. And so you and I both know there was one woman that was killed for assaulting the Capitol. And that was a tragedy. Nobody should take any kind of pleasure in a human being shot and killed. That was a tragedy. But you and I both know that if that was African Americans storming that Capitol, there would have been a lot more bloodshed, a lot more tragedy on that day.
Absolutely.
And so I just, again, the most common way people give up their power is not realizing they have it in the first place. This is not a moment where we just deplore. What we all know is we do something about it. Elections have consequences. Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff coming to the Senate shifted power in this country in ways that people are going to start to feel. They'll feel it with a $1,400 stimulus check. They're going to feel it by, we put in child tax credit expansion that's going to cut child poverty in half. I want to make it permanent, so it does it permanently, but at least for this year, cut child poverty for Black folk 54%. We're going to see in this COVID package help for Black farmers who have, we've lost millions of acres of African Americans through racist policies with the USDA. I could go through all the things from just those two people being elected because folk in Georgia came out to vote. If there was nationally a 10% increase in just African American votes, Latino votes, 10% increase, the Senate would shift even more dramatically. So all I want to say is, yeah, you're talking about those lawmakers who won't even speak the truth about systemic racism. But they are in the minority. Donald Trump never won the majority of this country. These are not the majority of us, Black, brown, white, good folk. This is not the majority of our folks. But they win when we do nothing. And so we can't stop. The danger of and I know you want to blame the bad people who do bad things, the people who do bad things. But for me, the thing I'm more afraid of is the good people who do nothing, who just talk about the problems, but don't assume their power and make the change.
Because we can't rely on these bad people to somehow one day not be bad. The only thing we can do is find a way to remove them.
Where in human history when in American history have you not seen that? They had a filibuster on the floor of the Senate in the 60s that stopped the civil rights legislation time and time again. How did they break it? Because folk took to the streets in a rainbow coalition that says, nah, we are an inclusive, multicultural democracy, and our laws are going to reflect that. Power concedes nothing without a demand. Never has and never will. Thus saith Frederick Douglass. And so are we going to make that demand? Look, I've now been working with the White House just on anti-lynching legislation. Thousands and thousands of Americans have been killed. Over a century of that bill being brought up and beat down. And now, thank God, because of, again, voters who got 2 more senators in, we now are going to pass what our ancestors are going to rejoice because the people made it so. So anger is a constructive emotion. It really is, as long as you channel it. I know a lot of folk who are angry and letting that heat just burn them up. But we need to channel that fire to fuel us to start working for our own liberation as a nation, to truly be a democratic nation. Because right now, the corporate forces, the money I see it down here in ways that are stunning. I just joined the Ag Committee, and people are like, why are you on the Ag Committee? Well, it's New Jersey's 3rd largest industry, but also because I don't understand how I can live in a country where where all of our subsidies for food go to the things that people tell us not to eat. Only 2% go to vegetables and fruit. And I got kids in Newark who walk into a bodega and a Twinkie product is cheaper than an apple. And now we've got epidemic diabetes. Don't think that's by accident. Corporations, pharmaceutical companies are feeding off the sickness in our Black and brown communities, making hundreds of billions of dollars from our sickness, feeding us on both sides, on the pharmaceutical side, treating our diabetes or heart disease, and then getting government subsidies to cheapen unhealthy foods. As Ron Finley out in South Central Los Angeles says, in LA, we got drive-bys and drive-throughs, and the drive-throughs are killing more people than the drive-bys. So we have a lot to overcome from the corporate malfeasance, from the moral failings. The only way you overcome these things is by activism. And all of us have to be activists. We've got to do something more than we're doing right now. Unless you're satisfied with the way things are. If you're not, then what are you doing to change it?
Let's talk about promises. often when people are running for office, we hear their plans. Biden's plan and a lot of Democrats, as soon as they get elected, people getting $2,000. Now it's $1,400. What happened?
Well, be a little fair about the math here, man, because we were pushing for $2,000. It was being denied. Warnock Ossoff, two friends of mine, they were saying, elect us, we'll get you $2,000. And after their election, we got $600. And so the math is we after the elections, you got $600, we're going to get another $1,400 on top of that. But we are not stopping. We're going to raise the minimum wage to $15. But we're not stopping.
That's going to happen.
No. Oh, brother, I should always be careful with what I say to you and your listeners. It is not done yet. We have a big fight in the Senate this week. We'll find out. But I want you to know the biggest thing that people should be excited about, besides the $1,400 checks. If you're just sitting there, I'm just out here working. People listening to you right now on the way to work. The biggest things folks should be excited about after their $1,400 check is the expansion of the child tax credit and the earned income tax credit. Not sexy sounding stuff, but this is what it's going to mean. Right now, if you're making $25,000 a year, you can't even collect the full child tax credit because you don't earn enough. What it's going to do is expand that and make it what they call fully refundable. So you got a kid, you are now going to get $3,600 per child, no matter what you make. And you're going to get expansion of the child tax credit. So if you're that person going to community college, working a full-time job, trying to get through, you don't even qualify 18, 19, 20 for the earned income tax credit. What this means, these two changes are going to literally affect the majority of Americans, put more money in their pocket, and actually take millions of Americans out of poverty. In fact, it will cut the child poverty rate amongst African Americans at 54%, Native Americans 61%. This is real money to the majority of Americans on top of that $1,400 check.
Well, I just hope Democrats give credit for it because, it gets lost in the sauce when it doesn't have a sexy name. And it's not on Instagram and Twitter. So let's do some marketing so people understand.
We're going to find a way to better market this. But I want you to know, if you're looking at your bottom line, sitting at the kitchen table, the economic stress in your life is going to be less because of Biden and a Democratic-controlled Senate, because they're going to get you $1,400. They're going to get you more money for your children, from $2,000 to $3,600 per child. And they're going to get you more eligibility under the earned income tax credit, even if you don't have kids. So this is going to be a big economic boom for Americans and the biggest cut of child poverty in the history of the United States of America.
Two items before we wrap. Your team, you got work to do, and I'm sure you guys have some votes coming up. When does the vote happen on this $1.9 trillion in this whole package?
In the Senate, and I just want to say that child tax credit is 1 year. I'm fighting to make it permanent. But this is going to pass the House this week, and we're fighting to get it passed by the Senate next week. We got to get it passed by the 14th of March, because if we don't, unemployment insurance, that's the wall of the last extension of unemployment insurance. We want to expend that further. So March 14th is the deadline. We got to get it done next week.
So they're going to be dragging their feet trying to hurt y'all with that. And so then the next thing I have before we let you go is colleges. The word was $50,000 loan forgiveness for colleges. Biden says not going to happen for elite private schools. Is it 50? Is it 10? What's the truth there, and what's going to happen for the students?
Look, Biden could do this by just making it so. He's telling people $10,000. By the way, there are significant, disproportionately minorities that have that debt. That would be very, very helpful. I'm going for a much bigger goal than that. And this is not just about an individual getting their loans. That should be done. The student debt is outrageous. This is a national competitiveness issue. From Germany to Canada, our competitors have all lowered the cost of college. They don't saddle a generation of their young people with that kind of debt. We need to be more competitive so we get more people in college. We went from the number one country with college graduates per capita to not even in the top 10 anymore, because we're pricing people out of it. So I'm for doing everything we can to get out of this debt trap, to relieve the burden on a generation of Americans. So I hope we go bold. And if Biden only does 10, that helps a lot of people. We should say, hallelujah, amen, thank you. Now, what have you done for me lately? We should try to get that higher.
And weed. It is legal for adults in Jersey. You have been supportive of it. You've been working to decriminalize at the federal level, which I think is almost done. But talk about what recreational in New Jersey means. You're a senator there.
You know this since I've been mayor of the city of Newark. This has been my big driving issue of not just legalization. That's not enough for adult use. We got to do restorative justice. We got to expunge records. We got to give this multi-billion dollar industry. We got to have women and minorities and veterans centered in that. And we've got to make sure as a nation that the tax money coming from this, the billions of dollars of tax money, are reinvested in those communities that have been targeted by the drug war and severely hurt. The reason why I'm excited, my bill that I introduced 3 Congresses ago on this, worked with New Jersey legislators who showed extraordinary courage, and they actually got a bill that does restorative justice passed. We are the best. We are the model now in New Jersey, not just for legalization. Fine, that's great for adult use. But I'm talking about balancing the scales of justice. I am so proud of my state legislators, and my governor for getting this done.
And the things you're saying is exactly what Governor Phil Murphy and and I think her name is Diane Waynu. Hopefully I know her last name's Waynu, but anyway, she's the chairman of the Cannabis Regulatory Commission in the state of New Jersey. Young black woman doing amazing things. You guys all sound like you're on the same page. How long does this stuff normally take to actually activate?
That's going to be on the governor, but just my last point I want to make. People think that we don't arrest people in marijuana. In 2019, last year we have data for, there was more marijuana possession arrests than all violent crime arrests combined, destroying people's lives for doing things 2 of the last 4 presidents admitted to doing. This is the most, and black folk are 3-4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white folks and there's no difference in the rates of usage. This has been not a war on drugs. This has been a war on people, poor people, people of color, veterans even more likely to be arrested for possession of marijuana. This is a nightmare. We need to expunge all those people who've been arrested like that, and we need to make sure we usher in a new era, end prohibition like they did with alcohol, do this right, get the tax money reinvested, create new business opportunities for disadvantaged communities, and make sure that we in the United States of America are ending what has been one of the darkest periods, which Michelle Alexander, you know this, called the new Jim Crow. We got to end it, and I'm glad that my state is now leading the nation and moving in that direction.
Senator Cory Booker, man, stop changing your number, bro. We just be checking on you, man.
Can I put it in the chat? Is it safe? I'm going to put my number. I don't want to put it out in the world.
We'll get it after, man. We'll get it after. Your old number I texted was like, you have reached Senator Cory Booker. This is now his executive assistant line. I was like, man, this guy, superstar. Got a hot wife, a hot girlfriend. You know what I'm saying? He probably punched one of those protesters in the face at the Capitol. I know you knuckled up in there. It was crazy. We're going to hear about it later on in your book. Senator Cory Booker, man, it's great to see you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.
All right, take care.
Peace, man.
Bye-bye.